Yo guys, what is up? It is Alex or Black Eye here. Once again, there have been SPL roster changes. And once again, this one was pretty shocking. CycloneSpin isn't playing ADC for the Titans anymore, and Stewart is moving teams from the Solar Scarabs to the Titans to take his spot. To replace Stewart, Yarkor is switching from support to ADC to fill the ADC spot. And finally, to fill in the remaining support role, Hurrywind is back in the SPL to play support for the Scarabs. As expected, the community was in shock, and the question on everyone's mind is, why? Why are these changes happening? Well, we don't really know, but based on some tweets, live streams, and statistics, we can make a pretty fair assumption. For the Titans, they actually won the Spring Masters tournament back in May, but just haven't been able to reach similar success afterwards. Comparatively, they haven't really been performing as well as they'd previously been. For the Summer Masters, they placed 4th, and currently in Phase 3, they have 2 set wins and 3 set losses, putting them in 5th overall. From my research as of this video being uploaded, I haven't really seen any of the Titans comment on the matter through social media or on livestream. Layers did talk about it briefly, and said it was a mutual agreement. The Titans were struggling, and they thought changes needed to be made. He also thought CycloneSpin was burned out from playing for so long.
All you guys really need to know is just that we were just struggling a little bit and we were having issues, and we got Stewart. So I mean, like, it wasn't like just like for no reason. I think Cyclone was a little burned out as well.
This could be a similar situation to when the Dragons chose to drop Sanford Soccer for Scream, and just thought they needed something different. But at the same time, I don't think anyone can say Cyclone has been playing poorly, similar to how not many people said Sanford Soccer was performing poorly when he was on the Dragons. But Stewart has been playing well, and has had many moments where he stands out among the rest of the Scarabs, so I don't think it's too much of a stretch to make an assumption that the Titans simply wanted to roll with a new ADC to see if they can become a top team again like they were during Spring Masters and prior. But as of now, some are saying CycloneSpin is a free agent, but he did tweet that he's taking a break from competitive and will decide later if he wants to continue playing or just retire. Since Stewart left, that leaves us with the Scarabs. There is some information about the changes as SMITE Game livestreamed a team check-in with them the day the news dropped. Mifflin was hosting it, and there weren't many questions about why the decisions were made, and they opted to focus on the future of the team. He asked if Yarkor was excited to switch to ADC or if it felt like it was more of a necessity. Yarkor did say that he felt like it was more of a necessity for him to switch to ADC rather than something he wanted to do, but he also felt like he could do more for the team in ADC versus support.
And York, back to ADC, man. You were pretty dominant in your stint during the ADC a little bit earlier on in the year. Are you excited to go back, or is this more of a necessity move?
I think it was like a necessity more than anything. So I feel like maybe I can do more here now.
That's interesting.
Than I was before, so.
Yarkor has played ADC in the SPL in the past, so this makes sense. Then Mifflin transitioned into asking how the Scarabs viewed their team, because many view the Scarabs as more of a stepping stone for higher level teams. This is kind of a weird question to ask, but it is fair. I want to remind everyone that the original Scarabs roster was Zapman, Baronic, Layers, Inbound, and Soloer Troll. Baronic is the only member left of the Scarabs, and pretty much every player except Inbound now plays for what's considered a top 4 team. Just as a side note, I feel really bad for Baronic because he's endured a lot since joining the Scarabs, and he really only has his coach, Slaney, left as a former teammate. Baronic also commented that it was a weird yet valid question, and at this point he's just used to the changes.
Boys, I mean, let's be serious for a moment now. How do you view this team? Because it seems like a lot of players in the past have treated, and it seems like a lot of teams as well, treat the Solar Scarabs as maybe a stepping stone. We've said, in the past, the casters have maybe described the squad as an incubation chamber for the rest of the league. How do you guys foresee it? Is the Solar Scarabs like the goal? Do we want to continue growing as a squad? Can you foresee this team sticking together, or do you legitimately, each of you, see this as maybe just a way to like keep exposure up, stay in the league, and maybe jump up to another team at some point?
It's kind of weird to like consider your own team like a stepping stone for the rest of the league, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's a weird, but I think that's just been like these past like 2 years. It's been, I don't know.
Hurrywind also stated that this is kind of just the nature of competition, where if there are players that are standing out above the rest, then they are more prone to getting better opportunities. He also didn't blame them for agreeing to change teams. Because at the end of the day, it's okay for SPL players to want what's best for them, and that's not wrong.
Well, it's not even that crazy, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like if the team is underperforming, like
Yeah,
let's
that's
say
exactly
let's say
like-
you've got a new team set up for like a few months and it's underperforming, and someone on your team is playing consistent and they get a better offer, then you can't really blame them. It sucks, but then if you find an iteration that works in a few months, then maybe people will be more likely to stick around. I mean, if it's working, people won't leave. So that's just kind of how it goes. It's unfortunate. This is probably the first time that's happened, I think. And
To this extent?
to this extent,
yeah, it
where
is
one
wild.
team has been taken, because the Bucks haven't done great this year either, but I'm sure some of them have been like offered spots, or people have offered to join their team, I'd have to imagine, through all the roster stuff, but they just chose to stick together. But once you open it up and you lose a couple of people, then you kind of lose what the team identity probably was originally. So.
And that's about all the information I've found as of this video being uploaded. But I think it's worth talking about roster changes and the Scarabs as a team. Just want to take a quick second to say that if you're enjoying entertaining and educational content, then I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a subscribe. Even if you don't subscribe, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Thanks again. It's worth highlighting that according to the official SPL website, there are a few steps for roster changes to occur. First, 3 of the 5 existing players must agree on the change. Then the team presents the roster change to the league operations team. They then review the change and approve it at their discretion. And finally, new contracts are sent out to necessary players to formalize the change. While I do agree that the Scarabs have been kind of screwed over as a team since 4 of their 5 original players either joined better teams or got kicked, I believe this is just the nature of competition, as Hurrywin said earlier. Trust me, the Scarabs have been my #1 team for a while now, and I completely understand that it really does suck to see players leave for essentially just better opportunities. But at the same time, you can't really blame them, and I don't think you can blame Hi-Rez either. If someone is on a team that isn't succeeding as much as they want to, and then they are suddenly offered to join a team that is succeeding more than their current team, of course they're going to accept it. And while it does suck for the rest of the Scarabs, I don't think it's necessarily a wrong thing to do. That's just how competition goes. You take every advantage you can get, and to get those advantages you need to take some risks. I've seen some people suggest that there needs to be a way of locking rosters, but I disagree with this mainly because it would create a lot of unrest between teams that aren't performing well, and kind of forces people into positions that they don't want to be in. I could maybe see an argument for having rosters locked for a small amount of time, but I think locking rosters for a very large amount of time would hurt the league more than help it. Roster locking for large amounts of time won't only help teams keep their star player, quote unquote, but it'll also hurt teams because it'll force people into unfavorable positions. These people being those that could have better opportunities but are forced into worse teams. I also think there's some responsibility to put on teams that aren't willing to make roster changes. Teams can sit there and try to fix their issues for as long as they want, but ultimately, if they try out a million new things and they don't improve, then the next logical step is to make a roster change. I want to clarify that this comment is more about well-established teams rather than newer teams. I suppose I'll end the video by reiterating that roster changes are typically good for the league, which is what I've said historically as well. Although, if it does happen too much, then it can be really hard to follow and can literally turn into a meme. As Worlds is less than 3 months away, I'm truly hoping that there aren't any more roster changes moving forward, as any more could make the public perceive the SPL as a joke, even if that's not the case. I'm sure we all just want what's best for the league, but what is best for the league differs from person to person depending on who you ask. This has been Black Eye, and I'll see you in the next video.
These are just some toys. This shit still so cold when it drop. It's gonna be a motherfucking snow day. Hey, boys, getting